everybody, welcome back. I hope you are doing well. For those of you that are new, my name is Susan. I am a freelance fiction editor specializing in science fiction, fantasy, and romance, and we are continuing our journey through Michael Hague's 6-stage plot structure. This week we are hitting stage 3, progress. With the previous turning point, the change of plans, you threw your main characters for a loop. Again. But now they've got a plan, or at least they've come to accept that their life has changed. So let's dive into what this new section looks like. The progress stage is a big chunk of your book. In percentages, for any of you that like that, it runs from the 25 to 50% mark of the entire book. So that's a big section. So at this point, your main characters are very aware of the new situation. They have tried some things for better and for worse, and they started to make some progress, or at least figure out what was going on when life threw them another curveball, the change of plans. Whether you went the new factor route or the new problem route, your main characters now have to pivot and move forward in this new progress stage. And as I mentioned, this stage is one of the biggest and one of the most vague. Progress? What does that mean? How? How much? So let's break it down into a bit more manageable chunks, either for while you're writing this section or while you're going back and reviewing this part of your story, if you're already past this point. Now, to do that, we're going to jump ahead a bit and work backwards, because I think that's the easiest way to focus and streamline this section. So, skipping over the progress section, the next turning point you're working towards right now is the point of no return. This is where something happens to the main characters where they can no longer go back to the way they were before. The point of no return name is very on point. So whatever this means for your story, if it's friends to lovers, maybe they slept with each other for the first time. It's kind of hard to go back to being friends once you've seen each other naked. Or for any of you that are writing a fantasy, maybe a main character has died, or maybe something has happened where it's opened the main character's eyes to where they can't keep going forward as they have with ignorance as they're trying to save the kingdom, and now they really have to tackle all of the harsh realities of this world. Now, quick note, this is not the climax of your story. This is not them reaching their goal. Keep in mind that you still have half a book left to go, so you're still building to that biggest moment, that climax. But this is a big moment in the middle that is going to forever change their life and keep them moving forward to that big point, to that goal. We'll dive into the point of no return a little bit more next week when we get to that turning point. But I wanted to bring it up now because I want you to start thinking about what that point might be for your story, because the key to a really strong progress section is to know where you're progressing to know where you're going. So then looking at your starting point, where they're at right now, just after the turning point of the change of plans, what happened to them then, and looking at where you want them to end up, or where you're thinking you want them to end up with the point of no return, you now have a guideline for how you need to get them from point A to point B, or at least you have a starting point to brainstorm what you might want to include for your progress section to get them through that part of the journey. So now, as you're thinking of that, here's some things to keep in mind. You want to make sure you're making progress in each aspect of your story. So you want to make sure, obviously, the main plot is moving forward, but you want to make sure your character arcs are continuing to move forward. So seeing them work towards their individual goals, dealing with their internal and external conflict, and how all that ties into the main plot, as well as any other outside secondary characters, relationships, or anything like that. It's a lot to balance all at once, I know. So what you might want to do, what might be helpful, is to write out all of those plots and characters and how you want them to change and grow during this progress section, so you can keep that in mind as you write everything, getting them to that point of no return. And again, progress doesn't necessarily mean all positive. They don't need to be all wins to get them to that next point. As with everything in life, moving forward means trial and error, figuring it out as you go, with some wins and probably some horrible failures as well. But either way, continuing to see them push towards that goal, making progress. So now you've sort of figured out the steps, you've looked at all your components, you're planning out your progress and how you want everything to move forward. First, you want to make sure each turn, each part of this progress section becomes even bigger and better or worse than the one before. The way you continue building that tension and that drive for your readers is making sure the stakes get higher and higher and higher as you go. So you want to make sure you're keeping that in mind as you plan out how your progress is going to progress. Second, each scene or chapter needs to be adding to the story, contributing to the plot. It needs to have purpose. And I know this sounds kind of silly, but especially with a section this big, it can be so easy to get lost in the details. So you want to make sure either now as you're planning it out or after as you're reviewing what you've written in this progress section that each scene and chapter has a purpose and is driving the plot forward, again to link up with my first point, which is making it even bigger and more dramatic and really keeping that tension and that pacing and moving them forward through the story. This section, more than any other in your book, is where the plot can slow. The world building can take over too much, your characters might not be making enough progress or not fast enough progress, or maybe they lose sight of what they want, of their goal, what they need to be doing. And any slow of that pacing or of the drive forward for your readers gives them an opportunity to put the book down. As I mentioned, it's a big section, so it's sort of easy to lose sight of the forest for the trees. So you want to make sure you're working through your progress section, making sure it's the best that it can be, as dramatic, as tightly paced, as powerful as possible to make sure your readers are continuing through to that point of no return and beyond. So combining all of this together with all of this in mind, you can hopefully very easily plot out how your main characters and your plot needs to move through this progress section up to our next turning point. Or if you've already written this section, hopefully you can use these tools as a guide to help you tighten and strengthen this part of your story. Next week, as I mentioned, we'll dive deeper into that turning point to talk about the details, how to make it as powerful as possible and set you up for success in the next stage, which is complications and higher stakes. Don't forget to like and subscribe, it really helps the channel, and then you'll know when a new video comes up every week. And until next week, keep writing.